Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Ashley Monroe titled The Blade. Okay, fun experiment for all you. Name a country band that is all women and more than just a duo. Then name one that might have some mainstream appeal, and that's not the Dixie Chicks. Now at this point, a few of you are wondering who could possibly fit into that category, and in 2011, we got an answer. The Pistol Annies, a group formed of newcomer Angelina Presley, A-list powerhouse Miranda Lambert, and underground country starlet Ashley Monroe. Together, they cranked out the pretty damn excellent debut Hell on Heels in 2011, and the great follow-up Annie Up in 2013. But they're probably most well known for collaborating with Blake Shelton and playing background vocals on Boys Round Here, easily one of the worst hit songs of 2013. And I don't blame any of the Pistol Annies for that. They're a hell of a lot better than the minimal role they played on that song. Hell, Ashley Monroe proved that when she showed up on Blake Shelton's next album on the song Lonely Tonight, one of the few actual highlights of that album. And yet some of you wondered why hell I called her an underground starlet. Well, Ashley Monroe initially was positioned a decade ago as another entry in the wave of fire-spitting female country singers in the mid to late 2000s, but Sony outright refused to release her debut album unless she had a charting hit, eventually only getting a fragmented release briefly in 2006 before finally getting on iTunes in 2009. A damn shame because the album is actually great, a gem where only die-hard fans in the country underground really seem to care much about it. Fast forward to 2013, where the Pistol Annies were actually getting some swell in the mainstream, and Ashley Monroe had signed to Warner Bros. Nashville and able to release her follow-up record, Like a Rose. And like her last release, it barely made the charts, and the only people who really seemed to care about it were those in the country underground. Plus a whole load of critics because, again, the album is awesome. Not perfect, it's got its rougher, hokier moments, and that duet with Blake Shelton ends the album. It's pointless, doesn't belong there, but it has a certain lived-in maturity that proved really charming for me, especially with songs like Weed Instead of Roses that were a little bit goofy, but still a ton of fun. Really did like it. So now that her career has stabilized a little bit, probably bigger than ever thanks to that Blake Shelton collaboration, which was charting this year, I wasn't surprised when I heard that her newest album was a slight pivot towards the mainstream. And I really wasn't all that worried. After all, she's still the primary songwriter on the majority of this album. It's always a good thing to have more women getting critical acclaim in country. So, were my assumptions correct with The Blade? Well, I was right not to be worried, but I will say that I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this release in comparison with her previous albums. And here's the thing, I'm not quite sure I can say it was her choice to target the mainstream that was the issue here, because considering how neo-traditional this album sounds, I can't see this getting airplay. This looks like a larger issue across the board. I think a lot of it has to do with the underlying concept not exactly being the best fit for the album's overall execution. In other words, it's damn good, but not quite great. So let's start with that concept first. For all intents and purposes, this is a breakup album in terms of its subject matter. And when I say a breakup, I mean that Ashley Monroe is approaching this breakup from a variety of different angles and situations and emotional states of mind. Sometimes she's directly involved in the dumping, sometimes she's the one who's getting dumped, and in a few cases she's providing consolation to those who have been dumped with songs like Weight of the Load and Has Anybody Told You. Hell, there are even cases like Dixie where it wasn't so much of a breakup that her husband was killed and she needs an exit strategy to get out of Texas after killing someone herself. In other words, this is an album exploring the various emotions and regrets that comes with that breakup situation. From the fearful hesitation that comes with instigating a breakup that you later regret on I Buried Your Love Alive, to consoling the person who did the dumping to just accept it like she has on from time to time. And then there are the spots where she doesn't handle things nearly as well, like trying to find some of the drunken bliss on If Love Was Fair, and then frustrated when that didn't work on If the Devil Don't Want Me. And then there are the moments where she's just trying to roll with the experience of losing love, from the dumping point of view on I'm Good at Living to the dumpee's point of view on Winning Streak. And then there is the title track, which really does crystallize this album at its best, easily being its best song. The painful risk that comes with loving and trusting somebody else, somebody that you can't control, and thus it can hurt when that love is abandoned, something that you had no control over. They might grab the handle of that knife, but you might end up grabbing the blade. And it helps that the production and instrumentation on this album is genuinely beautiful across the board. I may not always be completely sold on Vince Gill as a country singer, but my god, I love his production here. Neo-traditional in its incorporation of a lot of fiddles and steel guitar, but very modern in its ability to deepen the mix and bring in a spacier, acoustic touch power with just enough rattling percussion to complement the very much existing texture. Melodically, it does very much fall into a mid-tempo vibe, but with a noir snarl of I Buried Your Love Alive with some of the harmonica, the jittery pianos of the Simmer on Winning Streak, the piano supplementing the melodies on the title track from time to time and Has Anybody Ever Told You, and those bass lines. Okay, if you're looking for an example of how to properly handle mix balance, you do it right on this this album, it's here. They might not have a ton of texture to those bass lines, but they always have a distinctive presence and sometimes an interweaving melodic support like on Dixie or Way to the Low. It's balancing out the low end with the melodic groove and giving Ashley Monroe's fluttering voice a lot of room to breathe, and of course she sounds great, balancing that shattered elegance she has with enough gravitas and maturity to lend a lot of reality to her lyrics. She may be in a very stable relationship now, but there's life lived behind those lyrics. You can buy all of them coming from her. And yet, the more I listen to this album, I struggle to unpack why it doesn't hit me as hard as I wanted it to. And then it came to me. This might be one of the most mellow, placid, accepting, and contented breakup albums I've ever heard. Not that Ashley Monroe isn't capable of showing hurt or sadness or just being able to move on, but there's very little that's raw or exposed about her vocals that cuts deeper in her delivery. And it's the same across the entire album in terms of the instrumentation and the songwriting. Now, the instrumentation probably fares the best here. At least there are some more dark, melancholic moments like The Blade, and there's an underlying subtle sadness if love was fair and the devil don't want me. But take the song Bombshell as a prime example. It's a track where Ashley Monroe is hesitant to find the right moment to break up with this guy and does it mid-track before driving away and really heartfelt about it. And yet the song has such a sudden ending that you almost wish the writing hadn't included that breakup moment in the bridge just to let the negative space at the end of the song fill in the blanks with your own imagination. It could have been more powerful that way. And that takes us to the writing, namely that it feels oddly vague for Ashley Monroe. She's always had a knack for fleshing out her songs in little fragments to tell more of a story, but more of those, to say nothing of the more transgressive edge that Peppered Like a Rose and I really liked, it seems that it's missing here. And thus it's a little bit harder for me to engage with the stories being told, because as much as I like the nuance in the emotions behind them, there is not as much detail to flesh that out. More on this point, there's very little anger or fear to this album. Nothing in the writing that cuts to that real moment of heartbreak. It feels oddly muffled, never quite glimpsed in its entirety, and without that raw core at the center, I often feel like I'm grasping for something that's unnecessarily abstract. Look for more pain that doesn't really seem to be here. And this is a problem because it undercuts the dramatic stakes of all these stories. Yes, I can understand that Monroe's maturity and her world awareness will inevitably blunt some of that anger. She's not gonna be a fiery teenager anymore. But it feels like on many occasions we've jumped straight to finding acceptance of these broken situations without seeing or experiencing the moments where the relationship broke apart, and that undercuts the drama, at least for me. Now, in short, for a breakup album, The Blade is an easier and more beautiful experience than you would expect. And while I can definitely appreciate the variety of stories on display, I can't help but feel that the deeper impact was missed, or at least kind of short-sighted. It was an album I can definitely appreciate and respect for its beautiful melodies and its texture and its great performances and a lot of the nuance in the writing, but I feel that it's missing that defining center for me, which means it's getting a solid 7 out of 10 and a recommendation. As I said, far from a bad album, definitely shy of being a great one. Maybe the next time Ashley Monroe actually manages to catch that blade, we could see a little bit more of the blood. Just saying. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, or any other albums coming out that you want me to take a look at, I'd be more than happy to give them a listen. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.